How in the hell do you not love college football? Seriously, in a matter of moments, a game can go from being in the jaws of victory to overtime in Death Valley. And this is why we love this crazy, nonsensical sport that does not exist in any other realm of this industry. You can go ahead and sell me on the sell me on college basketball. You can sell me on the NHL. You can sell me on the MLB postseason. But a Saturday night in the SEC is second to none because of 29-25-6 final score. LSU back in the playoff hunt. Welcome on into the SEC Unfiltered postgame show. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson, breaking down everything that we saw tonight in Death Valley as the Tigers take control. Late in the fourth quarter, Garrett Nussmeier, ice in his veins, steps on up and delivers two clutch passes at the right time to go ahead and take the victory. But real quickly, make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below because we're breaking down everything that we see tonight, every game moving forward. We're doing Sunday Fun Day. We're doing Dave Talks Ball. We're doing the Monday Power Hour. So much content. So make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure that you're following us on all the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. Follow Dave at Mock 10 Sports, me at Mr. Cole Thompson. Download the podcast version of the show and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. This postgame show is brought to you by our friends over at RHOBACK. Use the promo code SECU for 20% off your first purchase. Joggers, polos, hoodies, shorts. Who knows what you're going to need, but I can tell you what, this is going to be a time to be dressed the nine down in Baton Rouge. This is going to be a time to be dressed the nine in Oxford. Whatever you want, you got to feel good. You got to feel good with RHOBACK.com. Woo! Dave, what a freaking game. What a game. I mean, my goodness, there is a ton that LSU has got to clean up. There is a ton that Ole Miss can still be playing for, even though they are basically at death's doorstep for a college football playoff berth. But at the end of the day, a Saturday night in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, in Death Valley, where dreams truly come to die, where people don't understand what that atmosphere is like. I have been on the record multiple times saying, Dave, I don't believe in home field atmosphere. I don't think that it does play a massive role in a win. And I put an asterisk, except for Tiger Stadium on a Saturday night in the SEC. I'm sorry. That atmosphere is a reason why LSU got a win. That atmosphere is a reason why LSU is in control and in the driver's seat. And that atmosphere is a reason why Garrett Nussmeier has the ice in his veins to step on up. What a game. I'm sorry that I'm rambling, but what a game, Dave. What?
Yeah. No, I mean, that was a big program. That was a program that both coaches needed that. Like Lane Kiffin as a big loss. If Brian Kelly loses that, you're in the same situation you would have been if you'd have lost to South Carolina. They'd have been on your tail, from that perspective, if you lost that. So that was from a long-term standpoint, that was a big win for Brian Kelly. For Lane Kiffin this year, it's about as big of a loss as it would have been as a loss for Brian Kelly from that perspective. Because like you mentioned, if Ole Miss wins out, gets a win against Georgia, you can have that conversation. I think we all aren't there yet, though. But man, LSU had to make plays when they needed to. Ole Miss, you felt like kind of kept them in games. Play calling a little bit for Ole Miss at times. You're a little question. It's a real home run threat, run in the middle in between the tackles, and then take another home run threat. LSU defense aggressive. But I'm with you, Cole. If that game's played probably anywhere else, you probably feel like Ole Miss probably does get the job done. But again, it wasn't. Tiger Stadium was the difference, I think, a little bit tonight. It just like Ole Miss can never get going offensively. Never could really get that consistent flow going for whatever reason. And Garrett Nussmeier wasn't really great tonight. I saw a lot of people slobbering all over him on Twitter and stuff. He made great throws late, and he did. And you got to give him credit for that. But I think overall it wasn't his great performance. I don't know why the guy didn't take off more a little bit. If I was a fan, it'd drive me nuts. I think nobody's talking. I'm sitting there like, why is this kid not running? Why is he not running more? But
I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I think that, again, at the end of the day, the quarterback that had the ball last, the quarterback that had an opportunity to strike, the quarterback when his team needed him most picked up the critical conversions, the touchdown, then, of course, finding Kyron Lacey, stepping on up, doing his thing. I think that that's going to carry a lot more weight for fans because it's really not about how you start. It's all about how you finish. And let's just be real. For an Ole Miss team, they did not come out of the gate swinging. I think that even though we usually talk about winners first on this show, we got to talk about just what was left behind very early on in that game. First drive, opening play, you're talking about Trey Harris dropping a breadbasket, easy 6 points. I mean, if you set the tone in that game, you take the wind out of Tiger Stadium in the first quarter. And don't get me wrong, it's going to pick back up. It's Tiger Stadium. It's a nighttime atmosphere. They have been salivating for this game to be on primetime television. It would have, but you would have been able to take control. The fourth down stop on 4th and 1, the missed field goal. That's at least 17 points on the board, or at least 13 or 10 points at most. And then we're not even having this conversation. So early on in the game, you watched as there were great throws, good reads, overall great football situations of manageable yards. But when the moment came down to the finite details, Ole Miss was not able to capitalize. And I think that's a major testament to what LSU's defense was able to do, primarily that fourth down stop. But it also just shows you that there are flaws in this Ole Miss offense, especially when Trey Harris is not out on the field.
Yeah, Jackson Dart wasn't great tonight.
No.
He had a little bit 24 42, 285, a touchdown, interception. And again, going back to the Kentucky game, Lane Kiffin, Charlie West Jr. just seem like they can't get into a flow off. It's either running between the tackle. We finally saw Ulysses Bentley for the Ole Miss fans listening out there. He still is on your football team.
He's alive
tonight. He is alive. We got a pulse on him. We visually saw him. But there's no flow to this offense. That's because we had a lot of it. To be fair, it starts up front of the offensive line. They're banged up. It's not really a good offensive line crew across the board right now. But again, I think we also talked about it a little bit going into the year. Does Blake Baker, the aggressiveness, that gives them an extra edge. Where last year with Matt House, they're just sitting in zone and letting people pick them apart. Hey, look, you're going to give up some explosives, and they did a little bit tonight. But you're going to be able to live with that if you're creating negative plays. You're making Jackson Dart uncomfortable. So like you said, you got to give LSU's defense credit. I guess I wouldn't say low-scoring game. Probably lower-scoring game than a lot of people picked. I think I picked 28-20. So it was close. But they picked 20 – no, 34-28 is what I picked. That was my final. I thought Ole Miss would win 34-28. So it's not too far off. But again, if you'd have told me both these teams didn't get over 30, I would tell you I'd be a little surprised. That's what we were with 29-26.
I think that when you watched as Trey Harris was taken out of the game, the fact that there was only 4 targets, 0 passes complete to Juice Walls, Caden Lee stepped on up. I think that's a big storyline and a huge spark plug for this offense. When you didn't have your number one, you needed somebody to be the guy. It was Caden Lee of all people, over 119 yards, a big time catch on 3rd down. Put yourself great in field position. I think that he finished, if I'm not mistaken, 9 catches, 132. 3 catches of 20-plus yards down the field. There was a lot to like about the way that certain players stepped up when your X factors were out. But there were still so many points left on the board. But also, we got to give a lot of credit to LSU's defense. We have to. Guys, Braden Swinson, for the 3rd time this year, into the month of October, will be your SEC Defensive Player of the Week. God, the baffling part about
I could see Whit Weeks maybe getting it.
Maybe Whit Weeks, but again, this is LSU's defense. You want to know what my biggest takeaway is right now through 6 games into LSU season? That $10 million, every penny, worth it for Blake Baker and his staff. Every single penny. Because
they got the most out of this defense, even with their interior departures and injury losses. They've been better than you thought.
They are nowhere near talent-wise where they should be. They're nowhere near where some of these other teams are in the conference. But I have said countless times throughout the entire offseason, throughout the time that we've done Sunday Fun Day, whenever we do our live reaction shows, when I look at a team like LSU, sometimes I would much rather have an A-plus teacher with B-level students to get their grade up to an A. That is what you watch tonight.
That's not sustainable to win a championship, though.
But it is sustainable.
Win a championship, that level of player will have to get better.
But it is sustainable for this year 1, with the way this offense looks.
Yeah, this year. That's not long term. I don't think Brian Kelly can go in a staff meeting. Man, boys, we'll take the leftovers. We'll just coach them up.
But the fact is that they missed on Dominic Williams. They weren't willing to spend money to go get Deuce Harmon. They weren't willing to spend money to get Simeon Barrow. But here we are looking at the players that they did have. The young players that are developing, players who last year were a part of this.
I honestly think the defense may be better without Harold Perkins. I think
the way that this defense has played extremely efficient, and the way that some of these players were underneath Matt House's staff last year and couldn't do a damn thing with a Heisman Trophy quarterback, with an offense that would have won a national championship. The fact that we're seeing that same defense with a few new pieces added on in and a couple of young players taking that next step forward, it's worth every single penny. Because what was the thing that really stood out about Ole Miss this entire season? Get Jackson Dart under duress. He's going to make a mistake or two. He's going to be feeling the pressure, and he's never going to get comfortable. He was never comfortable tonight. And that is a testament to the way that Blake Baker blitzed. That is a testament to the way the defensive line basically shut down offensive linemen. That was a testament to the way they had great execution from Greg Penn, from Swinton, from why am I blanking on his name?
And Savion Jones.
Savion Jones, but who am I blanking on? Number 40. Why am I blanking on his name right now?
Greg Penn.
No, 40, white guy.
Whit Weeks.
Whit Weeks. The fact that they had such a great execution on that part, that to me was such a difference in this game. Because yes, you brought this up. How many times did Garrett Nussmeier look awful with his throws? How many times did Garrett Nussmeier look like he never got comfortable? How many times did Garrett Nussmeier not tuck it and run just to set up a second and short and instead go for second and long? I mean, all on that aside, but it didn't matter because your defense kept you in this game. How many times you felt like, okay, Ole Miss has this as long as their defense steps up. And you cannot ask a team in Death Valley, in a nighttime atmosphere, in that environment, with the way that the fans were starting to gain steam going into the fourth quarter, which again is unheralded, and it doesn't happen anywhere else in the sport, anywhere else in college football, regardless of who you're playing against. Could be number one, number two. No atmosphere is going to be like that. They started to gain more traction into that fourth quarter, and Garrett Nussmeier kind of fed into it. That was the big difference for me. The defense never broke. They bent at times, but they never broke. Major testament to what you see from Blake Baker. Major testament from what you see from Corey Raymond. Major testament to what you see from Bo Davis. Major testament to what you see for these players and the way that they've responded.
Yeah, LSU looking forward to that. They got two big ones coming up. I mean, really three, but that's in 4 weeks. But two at Arkansas next week. Kind of a trap game. Arkansas is sitting at home tonight. They did not play. Most of them are probably at home. And then you go at A&M, which would be a big one. In fact, LSU needs at least one of them. They need at least one of them.
What do they? But Dave, what if they get both? I mean, and now we're going.
But I'm saying realistically, I think next week's a trickier game. LSU doesn't true. And again, I hate this statistic trend because they're different teams every year. But traditionally, LSU doesn't play well in Fayetteville. They just don't. But I hate that. It's a totally different team. Arkansas gets them in a good spot. Can this LSU team, that'll be a maturity thing. Can you go bounce back after an emotional late win and win that game? And then you're on the road the next week too. But again, my stat, Ole Miss fell to it. Ole Miss did not complete the mission of back-to-back road trips. LSU, you are now on the clock. Can you go win back-to-back road games and join your fellow 2019 LSU team who won it all and 21 Georgia who won it all? Again, since 2019, only 2 teams ever won true back-to-back road games. Not counting 2020.
Dave, they were without CJ Daniels. They were without Kyle Parker. They were without Chris Hinton.
Kyle Parker didn't really.
They were without multiple receivers tonight. You saw players step up in the big-time moments. Aaron Anderson, multiple big-time first-down receptions.
It's nice to see Mason come on.
Mason Taylor, that's a guy.
I look at Mason Taylor from his freshman year.
That's a dude at this point. If you're an NFL scout, you are putting him near the top of your board when it comes to this receiving aspect. He was phenomenal. I think you got to give a lot of credit to Kyron Lacy, which we'll get to in a moment. I thought Xavier Thomas had a couple of bad drops, but he also had 2 big-time plays, one of which was the 21-yarder. And then Kyron Lacy, the dude gets hurt. The play where he gets hurt, I thought that was game done. I swear, the way that his knee buckled for that one moment, I thought without question, this is a dude that's going out. This is a dude that's not coming back in. How do you go respond? He comes back in. He makes the biggest catch of his career. And it is right after Michael Davis drills a field goal, which I thought was impossible. Truly. I've watched this kid.
Who are you saying? Oh, Caden Davis.
Caden Davis. I've watched this kid. He was at Texas A&M. I've seen what he's done.
We signed him when I was at A&M.
We watched him 2 weeks ago miss a 47-yarder or a 44-yarder against Kentucky where if he gets that one, they go to overtime, they're probably sitting undefeated going into this game. We watch him miss it, drills it, and there's Kyron Lacey on the opposite end saying, find me, I got it. I've been going toe-to-toe with Trey Amos all night. I got him right where I want him. Let me go ahead and be that dude. Let me show you why we are wide receiver U. Let me show you why we are the team that nobody wants to play in this environment on a Saturday night. Let me give this to you. And Garrett Nussmeier didn't miss a freaking beat. Beautiful ball, incredible execution, perfect timing when it comes to the cutback. Celebrate. Let the fans start revving on in. And by the way, Brian Kelly, to all the doubters, all the haters out there, because I have been one of the biggest Brian Kelly supporters for a while. Guys, he's 13-0 in Tiger Stadium. On top of that, he is undefeated in night games in Tiger Stadium. And he's right on course to get to another 10-win season.
Shoot, they've only lost 15 home games. Hell, every coach wins there at night. I don't know if I'm really tipping the cap to Brian, but they only lost 15 games there at night since 2000.
I don't care, man. I don't care. The fact that we are still selling this guy as if he is not the great
I don't think
coach.
anybody's like – I think most people will say he's a 9-10 coach. I mean, it's what he's traditionally been.
But
My thing with Brian Kelly is
playoffs.
his teams usually don't prepare well these next 2 weeks. Like if
Sure.
you go lose it at Arkansas and at A&M, people won't be happy.
No, but if he ends up winning both those games, and now they're sitting at 7-1, going into face off against Alabama, do you doubt it? Because I mean, you look at the rest of their schedule.
Well, LSU'd be favored in that game.
No,
yeah.
but if you look at the rest of their schedule, they will win against Florida the way that Florida looked tackling at times tonight. As long as they don't crap the bed, they will win against Florida. They will win against they'll win against the FC.
They should beat Oklahoma.
They'll beat Oklahoma, and they'll play. And there's one more team that they face off against. Who am I blanking on?
It's out of the league.
No, I don't think it's out of the league.
They got 2 more. They got 3
Vanderbilt.
more. More conference games. Yeah, Bandy could cause them issues on defense.
Maybe I don't. If they can control the tempo, maybe that will be an interesting game. But I'm looking at 10-2. The way that I look at LSU, I said this on the live stream, and I said this on the preview when we were doing it. The winner of this game was going to the playoff. I truly believe at this point, yes, you are 100% right, and I know the comment section is going to agree. This is a week-to-week league right now where you can have the marquee win and the next week fall short. It can happen. It's happened to South Carolina. It's happened to Kentucky. It's happened to teams. It has. But I just feel like right now, the way LSU is playing, as long as they're not getting in their own way, they will be a college football playoff team in 2024. They will. No doubt about it.
Well, I think it's fair to say now. It's these next 2 road trips will be – I mean, do you think they need both? I mean, I don't think you necessarily need both. You need one.
Here's the thing, Dave. I believe that brand, that logo, that atmosphere will carry enough weight to where they will be in the playoff at 10-2. And their schedule, they're going to have a win over.
No. I was saying if they lost it, do they need both of these next 2? Or just
no, because if I think that they'll go 10-2 at worst. And so if you're 10-2.
So you're predicting them to what? Win one, lose one, beat Alabama, and win out?
I think that they will either lose to Alabama and win both these games against Arkansas and Texas A&M, and they will win out and they'll go 10-2, or they will lose to Arkansas, lose to Texas A&M, beat Alabama, and win out. But that's my prediction.
Maybe 3 losses if they lost to both those teams.
I don't think they'll lose to both of them, though. I think if they, I could see them losing to one.
If they lose to both those, they'll beat Alabama. But no, I mean, you're right. Odds are right now you would say LSU probably makes the playoffs because the schedule's pretty beneficial.
Here's the other thing, Dave, that we're not factoring in. They have a loss to they will be 10-2 with 1 loss in conference play. They'll get a shot to go to Atlanta. And if they get a shot to go to Atlanta, then they're in the playoff automatically.
Yeah, you got to think LSU's got a lot more conference games to get. They hadn't played a lot of conference games because they had the bye week. They played the 2 non-cons. For 2 weeks there, they were playing a bunch of non-cons. Everybody else is playing conference. So you're right. They still got some conference games to make.
And they had the neutral site game against USC in Las Vegas to where that's one of their losses. So it's a non-con loss.
Look great right now, but
not saying it does, but what I'm saying is that that's a non-con loss. And that's their only loss right now.
No, I agree. That's my point being they played more non-conference games than they played conference games so far.
I think when you look at Ole Miss, and we got to talk about them because now they are sitting at 5-2. They get a bye week. They need a bye week. Honestly, the fact that they have gone this far and survived, and honestly, the fact that they've looked as they have at times, they need to bye. I'm not ready to throw in the towel just yet. I'm not. I know there will be people out there that will say Ole Miss is not going to the playoff. They cannot afford another loss. That means that they have to beat Georgia. That means that they have to beat Florida. That means that they have to beat Vanderbilt. That means that they have to beat Mississippi State. They do. But I'm not ready to throw in the towel on Ole Miss just yet. I feel like the way that Ole Miss played, even with all the questions on offense, even with the poor executed on offensive line play, the inconsistencies that we have seen in the secondary, I still believe enough in them that they could beat Georgia, because Georgia still has not been able to play 4 quarters of consistent football against a meaningful opponent. They go 10-2 the rest of the way. They go 10-2 the rest of the way.
10-2, get them in.
It's going to depend on the rest of college football.
They need, you know what they need? They need to be the biggest Georgia fans in the world. That's who they need.
100%.
They need to be cheering for Georgia every week until obviously you play them and you're like, yeah, Georgia rolls in with 1 loss.
The other thing is that they need to be a huge fan of LSU too.
Yeah,
because
they do. I agree with you. Yeah.
What's so interesting, Dave, and I've started paying attention to this, the AP poll, which again is a complete joke, and also the fact that we're looking at what could be a factor in the college football playoff committee polls, they're not penalizing you for the losses. They're rewarding you for the wins. Because Notre Dame has one of the worst losses I have ever seen against Northern Illinois. But they have a win against an improving Texas A&M team and a win over a Louisville team that was top 15 at the time. They're still in the top 12. They would be in the playoff today. They would. Now, do I agree with it?
Who has the best win in the country, right? Well, Oregon, I think now.
Oregon probably has the best win.
Best win in the SEC is Alabama.
It's still Alabama. Well,
yeah.
It's probably Vanderbilt because they beat Alabama. But more importantly, of the teams that are going to go be in that race for the playoff, it's Alabama over Georgia.
Yeah.
I would say so. And maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Alabama has the best win because of, I don't think Georgia loses that game 9 times out of 10. I think if they win that game, actually, if they play in the second half, they win that game by double digits most times, especially the way Alabama's looking right now. But they would probably have, in my opinion, the best win. I think LSU's close behind them, though.
Yeah, LSU's got probably the second best win.
And yeah. LSU's defense did its job.
Let's say this too, Cole. I think whoever wins that Georgia-Texas game next week will probably, you put Texas and Alabama if they both beat Georgia having the better win. But yeah, if Georgia wins next week, I think it's Georgia would have the better win at Texas.
Georgia would have the better win at Texas because they're going to Texas. But again, that's kind of that's the beauty of the SEC right now, where Texas can lose, Georgia wins, Georgia loses to Ole Miss, Ole Miss wins out, Tennessee beats Alabama, Alabama beats LSU, Georgia beats Tennessee, and now we have all these teams in the running to go to the college football playoff. Crazy things can still happen. And meanwhile, we're still not factoring in Texas A&M, which has a better defense than advertised, an offense that did show momentum last week. Now, is it sustainable? That's where we're going to have to discuss moving forward. But I do believe that, again, we're looking at 6 teams that certainly still belong in the hunt. I'm not ready to throw in the towel on Ole Miss. I'm not. I think I
don't mean to interrupt. You keep going. Sorry. Keep going.
I think when you look right now at where they showed strengths, there's enough to like. There's just no more room for error. Because of the win against Kentucky, going into this week, a road game atmosphere in Death Valley at night, with the way that crowd was able to stay in the game late in the fourth quarter, the way that it did it in Williams-Brice Stadium, another hostile atmosphere, another cathedral of chaos. That's one of those places where maybe the committee will look fondly on you because of, it's what I would consider to be a good loss, and you have great wins. Yeah. Wins over teams like Georgia, wins over teams like South Carolina, wins over teams like Florida, wins over teams. So there's enough there to where you can feel confident. The problem is that you have to get those wins, and I don't know if the wins are there right now for Ole Miss. I don't. Where again, they may end up looking like a top 10 team at the end of the year. They may end up looking like a top 15 team at the end of the year, but it's not enough for me to buy into it now. It just is.
Yeah. Also from an Ole Miss perspective, like big picture, Lane I feel like Kevin gets so conservative offensively in these big games. And tonight I didn't really again, conservative, maybe not tonight, but I don't know, just gets real tight. Like everything just looks a little tight with him in big games, especially on the road. I mean, you've seen it against Alabama. You've seen it against Georgia in the past. Kind of saw a little bit tonight. I mean, think about this long term. Now, if they go 10-2, it's a little different, Cole. But from Ole Miss's growth collective, I asked Neil McCready on Dave Talks Ball. He was my guest from an Ole Miss perspective the other day, and we kind of talked about what would 9-3 or Ole Miss just missing the playoffs? Like, what would that mean? And he lives in Oxford. He's sitting there.
It's
like,
a lost year.
He would be like, yeah. He's like, it is. He compared it to like the Dodgers, not at least bare minimum winning the NL pennant. He's like, you spend that much money on a team. He's like, people don't want to hear about injuries. People just don't. Well, we had X amount of injuries. He's like, dude, you can just tell people here do not want to hear that. It's playoff or bust. He's like, just like I would say the Dodgers from an MLB perspective this year. It's at least, he's like, I'll never say it's World Series or bust because it's hard to win it. But it's like, it's at least get to the World Series. For Ole Miss, it's at least get to the playoffs. Also, we talked a little bit about, do people stop donating to the collective a little bit? Like, again, I know this is a bigger picture thing, kind of like, hey, like, to your point, Cole, I'm still with you. It wouldn't shock me if Ole Miss beat Georgia at home. And I think, like you said, what's the other toughest game after Georgia? Oklahoma?
Arkansas?
I'm with you. That's it.
Probably at Arkansas?
Definitely it. Yep, at Arkansas over Oklahoma at home. But, like, let's just say they go 9-3 visit. Give your Ole Miss fan, it's kind of like, well, dude, I paid a decent amount of money last year and it got us 9-3. Like, I'm not going through this crap again. Like, I may donate a little bit, but it goes off a little. I don't know. It's just me thinking long term. And that doesn't, tonight losing doesn't change that. So,
no, it doesn't.
Long season ahead. Ole Miss is going to be favored, I think, in every game outside of that Georgia one. So you never know. Other teams in other conferences, people lose. You're right. They can get back in it.
What I think right now also is, and I want to bring this up because if it's important, the SEC has got to come up with some type of rule to where when a player goes out for a series because of an injury, they stay out for the rest of the series. Because of how many times, especially with a team like Ole Miss, where, several players left, they did not come back into the game. When it slowed down the momentum, you could feel it inside the stadium. And now because of, again, that dumb statement released at 9:30 at night, like nobody's going to be paying attention. We all saw it. We all saw it, Ole Miss. The fact that you let that slip and then threw in more of a conversation and still did it again today, something's got to change right there, man. Like that is something that needs to be cracked down whenever it comes to the future of what is going to be the SEC moving forward. It has to.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think you could fix that with just a simple fine. But no, I mean, before we wrap this one up, I mean, Ole Miss here, I mean, offensive line still an issue. You thought you fixed it a little bit in the offseason. I know they're banged up, but man, the offensive line still just does not look great. But it goes to show, man, you go in the portal, you got to build homegrown on the line of scrimmages, especially in the offensive line, because it's such a developmental position. How football is a developmental sport, but it takes continuity. You bring that many transfers and stuff on one offensive line, I don't know. It's just that continuity can't be there. There's something to be said.
Their offensive, unfortunately, the way that I view offensive line is the way I'm starting to view the NFL when it comes to free agency. Good offensive linemen don't hit the free agent market. Good offensive linemen don't transfer. There's a reason why they are transferring.
Jaden Proctor's an exception to the rule.
But again, he's an exception because your head coach left and they said, okay, well, I'm just going to go.
Correct.
But besides that, it's starting to feel that way. It's starting to feel like there is a reason why offensive linemen are transferring and that when they go to a new place, it's the same mistakes. It's just a new logo. It's just the same problems, different color scheme. That's all it is. And you're seeing that right now with Ole Miss. Ole Miss's defensive line, Ole Miss's defense, for the most part tonight, up until the final two drives, really, that was good enough to get you deep into a college football playoff run.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Ole Miss's offensive line is good enough to take the Liberty Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I think just Lane's offensive play calling in both their losses against Kentucky and LSU, I think that is the reason they did not lose. The defense, and again, I mean, I've stated I'm not the biggest Pete Golden guy in the world, but like Pete Golden and the Ole Miss depth across the board has kept them in every game. They've lost 2 games this year because of Lane Kiffin and Jackson Dart not playing well, something they didn't expect so far. But it's like you said, I mean, you still got a long season ahead of you, some things that could go your way, but you have no more get out of jail free cards.
The other thing, Dave, is that right now when you talk about Ole Miss, it's really frustrating because you don't have many years like this. Like LSU, they lose tonight. They win out. They're 10-2. They're in the college football playoff. They're in the college football playoff. And here's the best part. If they go 9-3 with this roster, but you start landing some 5 stars the way that they're finishing top 5 in recruiting this year, the way that they're developing talent, the way that the collective will spend money when they have more money with guys like Emory Jones and Will Campbell off to the NFL, they'll be right back in this hunt. They'll be right back next year and everything will be fine. Ole Miss does not have that. Ole Miss is not a program that will constantly be in this position where they see not only a college football playoff berth, they see a team that can win multiple college football playoff games. And that's why this year is so different down in Oxford for many people. And I agree with you when it comes to when we're talking about the collective. Yeah, I'll donate. I'll gladly donate. But when I donated last year thinking that we were going to go to the postseason, we were going to be a team that fought with programs like Texas, programs like Alabama, programs like Georgia. And now we're sitting at 9-3. Why would I give more money for a roster that is going through basically a bit of a rebuild next season? Why would I do that? It's why it's important, and momentum has to be carried. And I'm not ready to give up on Ole Miss because, again, the SEC is just so wackadoo this year. Like, anyone can beat anyone, and it's not going to surprise me. It really won't at any capacity. But there also is a moment where teams like Georgia, teams like Alabama, teams like Texas, teams like LSU, with the right personnel, teams like Florida, even Texas A&M and Tennessee, who still have a lot of work to do. But I think if the collectives are in the right place, they will be in the hunt for a college football playoff berth. I don't think it's that way at Ole Miss. I don't. And this is why you cannot afford to not just lose another game. You cannot afford to look that pedestrian in the offensive play calling again. You have to be unafraid to uncork it. You have to trust whoever are your best players to get open and make those type of moves. Because if you don't, now we are talking about 8-4. Now we are talking about 9-3. It's not just a reality. It is a legit factor that will become a thing. And that can't happen this year. It can't. It absolutely can't.
No, you're 100% right. Why? Fun game, though, in Baton Rouge. And Tiger Stadium was the difference. It was the difference at the very end. It almost had chances to take control of the football game. Offensive line, I think play calling for Ole Miss kind of let LSU hang around. You let LSU hang around at home, really any time of the day. Fourth quarter, fans get into it. Anybody's game goes into overtime. LSU gets the win. Give them credit. You're right. If you're an LSU fan right now, you feel pretty good about your chances making the college football playoff right now. The 2 tough road games coming up. That'll be the interesting. How does Brian Kelly and them get back on track? Because as we just talked about, I think we've talked in circles about it, is the league's unpredictable each week. It's like, guys, like, we go to Arkansas next, dude. Like, it's going to be a tough place to play. They're coming off a bye week.
That was a playoff game. Like in my opinion, the way that looked, that was a playoff game. And more importantly, deep down, just as a college football fan, as somebody that lives and eats and breathes the sport, talks about it for a living, is lucky enough to do this as a job, there is nothing more I want than Tiger Stadium to host a playoff game. Because that environment, that atmosphere, that needs to be rewarded on the primetime stage at the highest stakes. Because there are very few things in life that bring me pure joy. Seeing a place like Tiger Stadium live up to the hype, this game meet all of our expectations on a weekend that we circled, a weekend that we put in permanent marker. No weddings, no funerals, no birthday parties. If I have a child, sorry, go ahead and film his t-ball practice. I'm not going. You can't get me to leave my house. And there were still questions on if it would live up to the hype. It did on every capacity, from bad play calling, from highlight grabs, from ice in his veins, Garrett Nussmeier delivering in a moment where, yes, this is a kid that waited it out, did it the right way, was unafraid of playing the long-term game just to be able to get to this moment. It had everything. And this is why college football is the greatest freaking sport in all of the universe. It is better than the Premier League. It is better than the NHL. It is better than MLB. It is better than the NFL. You don't get moments like this on Sundays, but you savor them on Saturday night. And you certainly savor them on a Saturday night down in the South.
Yep.
Like, rate, review, subscribe. Make sure that you're following us on all the social channels. Dave and I will be back along with Chris Phillips for Sunday Fun Day. Let me know in the comment section. Do you want me to do a live reaction on what we saw between Kentucky and Vanderbilt? I'll actually do that for you guys if you really want. But make sure that you also are following us here on the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow Dave at Mock 10 Sports, me at Mr. Cole Thompson. Download the podcast version of the show and check out all of our great work at SECUnfiltered.com. I'm Cole Thompson. He's Dave Shumate. If you want me to do a live reaction to what we saw in Vanderbilt and Kentucky, you get 10 minutes to go ahead and put it in the comments section. I will do it, but you got 10 minutes. But Tigers win in what is a classic of the Magnolia Bowl. And more importantly, LSU is right back in the college football playoff hunt. Peace.